Hey everybody, I'm Jake, and I make RPG supplements and videos about Pathfinder 2 and how to treat people with respect around the gaming table. And I'm going to be talking to you today about the Commander, one of the newest Playtest Battlecry classes, one of the two. I already covered the Guardian. You can see that linked at the end of this video here if you want. The Commander has a whole lot of little things that it can do. So this is going to take a while. Also, I'm going to put links along the way for later on in the video in case you want to skip sections. Like, I know for me, I want to go right to the feats most of the time because that's really like the meat of what a class can do and how to customize it. So I guess if you want to skip to feats now, you can there, but first, I'm going to be going over the basics of a class, not including things like skills and skill feats and ancestry feats, because you already know that crap. Something to keep in mind about the Commander is that the Commander's capability depends on the party composition. You have to build a Commander differently depending on who is in your party. If you have a bunch of ranged attackers, then they're going to be best suited to have the ranged attack abilities. If you don't have anyone else in your group that has shields, there's no reason to take the shields up ability that lets everybody put up their shield on your turn. So you really need to know your group before you can even make your Commander. Also, I'm not going to go a lot into ancestries, but I will mention that the ancestries can lend more flexibility to a Commander's in-combat potential. Like, for example, if you take Kitsune and the spell familiarity, you can have Ghost Sound or Daze, and that can be very useful as well. Especially in basically a melee strategist. In the description, there's a link to a character that I have already built. It's a commander, it's a Kitsune commander. Let's call him the Arctic Fox. General Jarkeld. If anybody likes Magic the Gathering, you'll know what I'm talking about. Otherwise, I'm just weird, and that's okay. So, that's who I made. I made General Jarkeld, the Arctic Fox Commander. It's just fun. It's really just a versatile, all-around useful commander. Let's get into the commander details. You get hit points. Your key attributes: intelligence. Expert in perception. For saving throws, you're expert in reflex and will to start with. Skills: you're always trained in society and warfare lore, plus you get other skills. This is a skill heavy, or rather skill dependent class. The warfare lore is actually a lore skill that levels as you level that is useful in combat for this class, and that's extremely rare. Like, your warfare lore actually matters. I love that. It's neat. Yeah, I love you too. They're trained in all simple and martial weapons and unarmed attacks. For defenses, they're trained in all armors and unarmored defense. And they get shield block. They also get drilled reactions, which means that anytime that you use one of your abilities that requires an ally to use a reaction, you can give them that reaction. Only once per town? Wow. Only once per turn? Wow. Only once per round? And only one ally at a time to start with. But you give them extra reactions, which obviously is amazing, especially if you have other melee fighter types or actual fighters in the group, like guardians, people that really need to use their reactions. This class doesn't pair best with casters. Yes, it has a couple of abilities that help casters, but for the most part, it helps the strategy of people who are going to be in melee combat. Most. Its abilities are geared toward those things. You can still help anybody, but it's going to be most, powerful, most optimized if you have an all melee party, except for a couple of abilities. And then you should have an all archer party or all caster party. Yeah, like I said, it depends on what your party composition is, how you build your commander. It's very, very customized because you have to, not because you want to. Now, the biggest deal for Commander is their tactics. They get special abilities. They start with 4. And that's it's sort of like spells in a melee class, which is odd. but you can use them mostly any number of times per day. You start with 4 in an actual book that you keep your strategies in. It's a folio containing 4 tactics. It's weird. And you get 2 per day. I recommend taking the feat that lets you swap one out at the beginning of combat, depending on what you see in the combat, as soon as you can. Because these tactics are all useful, but some of them are extremely specific, so they're not always going to be useful. Yeah, I know. Complicated. So, the tactics are the main part of the commander. You have feats that add tactics or just add separate abilities. For the most part, you're not going to be doing a lot directly in combat. You will occasionally hit something. Maybe because a tactic or feat requires you to, or just because you're a melee class and you hit stuff. And you probably have decent strength. At 3rd level, all commanders have warfare expertise. You gain expert proficiency in warfare lore. And, starting at 3rd level, you can use warfare lore to recall knowledge about most creatures regardless of type, but typically only to determine whether they can be reasoned with, their most notable offensive abilities, and whether one of their saving throws is particularly weak. Still, that's amazing to get at low levels for any class, but specifically a melee class. Now, it's not exactly esoteric lore. It can be used with any creature, like esoteric lore, but it doesn't just give you anything you want to know about it. It gives you primarily the stuff that a tactician would care about at the outset of combat. Like, it doesn't matter later on if you can reason with them if you've already attacked them. It just usually doesn't. So you want to use this as early as you can in the combat to understand how you want to know this as early as possible in the combat to know how to proceed. Warfare lore is really useful with this class. This is so neat. Over and over, a couple of things are mentioned in Commander that I should touch on. Squad mate. It's really just a title that means all of the people that you consider on your side in your party. It's sort of an in-world representation of what we consider our party out of game. And banner. You actually wave a little pennant or a flag around to signal to your allies where you are and like what formations they should take in combat and what tactics to pursue. Theoretically, really, it's a cheerleader. You're a freaking cheerleader leading on your army. All right, it's a banner. Things around you get bonuses, including a +1 to will saves versus fear. I'll get to that in a sec. The most consistent feature that a commander has is the banner. The banner is literally a banner or pennant or flag or something that signifies who you are and where you are in combat. You start play with a custom banner that you use to signal allies when using your tactics or to deploy specific abilities. It can be attached to a weapon or a shield, or it can be a separate like flag on a pole, and certain abilities require that you plant it in the ground. So if you do this on a weapon or shield, you don't have the weapon or shield while you're using that ability. So there are benefits and drawbacks to having it attached to a weapon or shield or not attached to anything. I kind of think it's a cool thing to have like a familiar to pick up the pennant if you want it picked up, because they could. It's just a simple interact as long as they have manual dexterity. I know, I love familiars, but familiars can be useful for a tactician, and that is your entire role in combat. The standard base ability of a banner is basically the same as a cavalier. The commander is a combination of like an Overwatch, a marshal, and a cavalier. As long as your banner is visible, such as by being affixed to your weapon or worn attached to a pole alongside your backpack, you and all allies in a 30-foot emanation gain a +1 status bonus to will saves and DCs against fear effects. You pause or resume this effect as part of any action you would typically use to stow or retrieve your banner, such as interacting to stow it. If your banner is destroyed or stolen, allies within 30 feet become frightened 1. This effect has the aura, commander, emotion, mental, and visual traits. Now with the cavalier, I thought that was kind of stupid, because the cavalier doesn't use their banner for any damn thing, but the commander bases all of their abilities on where the banner is. It sort of symbolizes using it to signal your allies in combat, like you're using a football playbook and you're like signaling for them to do different shit. And if you suddenly don't have that, they have no strategy. So the fear actually makes sense. They could become frightened if they don't have direction. I get that. The rest of the boring base abilities, you can skip here to see the tactics. Military expertise. At 5th level, your proficiency rank for martial weapons, simple weapons, and unarmed attacks increases to expert. When you critically succeed at an attack roll with a weapon you are at least an expert with, you apply the weapon's critical specialization effect. Expert tactician, 7th level. Your proficiency rank for your commander class DC increases to expert, and you add 1 new tactic from the base tactic abilities. This can be of any mobility or offensive tactic you don't already know, or you can choose from expert tactics you have access to. The total number of tactics you can have prepared increases to 3. At 7th level, it's 3. You really need to be careful picking these tactics. And I recommend taking the one that allows you to switch out a tactic in the beginning of combat. Always. Every time, with every commander. In addition, your proficiency rank with Warfare lore increases to Master. So cool. That continues to happen. At 7th level weapon specialization, you have learned how to inflict greater injuries with the weapons you know best. You deal 2 additional damage with weapons and unarmed attacks in which you're an expert. This damage increases to 3 if you're Master, 4 if you're Legendary. Pretty standard. Level 9, Fortitude expertise. Your Fortitude save increases to expert. Armor expertise at 11th. Your proficiency ranks for light, medium, and heavy armor, as well as for unarmored defense, increase to expert. You gain the armor specialization effects for medium and heavy armor. Obviously, the Guardian is better at armor. The Commander is just about as good at attacking. However, the Guardian's main stat is strength, and the Commander's is not. I think there would be really good combinations of taking primarily an Investigator and adding Commander onto it. I think that would actually be better than the opposite, because then you can add your intelligence modifier to your attacks because you're an Investigator. 11th level, Commanding Will. Your proficiency rank for will saves increases to Master. When you roll success on a will save, you get a critical success instead. 13th level, Perception Mastery. Your proficiency rank for Perception increases to Master. At 13th, you also get Weapon Mastery. Your proficiency ranks for unarmed attacks, simple weapons, and martial weapons increases to Master. 15th level, Battlefield Intuition. Your proficiency rank for Reflex saves increases to Master. When you roll success on a Reflex save, you get a critical success instead. Greater Weapon Specialization at 15th level. Your damage from Weapon Specialization increases to 4 with weapons and unarmed attacks in which you're an expert, 6 if you're a Master, 8 if you're Legendary. Standard I hit things hard class. 15th level, Master Technician. Your proficiency rank for Commander class DC increases, blah, blah, blah. You add 1 new tactic to your folio. The total number of tactics you can now have prepared increases to 4 at 15th level. These things are important. And you gain legendary proficiency in Warfare lore. 17th level, Armor Mastery. Your proficiency ranks for light, medium, and heavy armor, as well as for unarmored defense, increased to Master. Legendary Tactician, 19th level. This is their capstone thingy. If capstone is even a thing people still say. Whatever. Your proficiency rank for your Commander DC increases, blah, blah, blah. You add another 1 new tactic to your folio that can be legendary or lower. Now the total number of tactics you can have is 5. Ooh. Anyway. Tactics. The largest number of tactics is the lowest level one, the trained tactics. So the ones that you can take at first level. So most of our time on tactics is going to be spent on those. When you first gain your commander's folio at first level, you choose 4 tactics, like I mentioned before. And again, you can have 2 prepared at any time. First, we go through the mobility tactics and then the offensive tactics, because that's how it's organized. So that's what we gotta do. Before we get into the tactics, some of the tactics, a lot of them, have banner as a trait. That just means that it is dependent upon your banner. It's based on your banner no matter where your banner is. Usually it's in your hand. Defensive retreat. 2 actions. Banner. You call for a careful retreat. Signal all squad mates who squall. I don't like this class. The first mobility tactic, Defensive retreat. It takes 2 actions. You have to have your banner. You call for a careful retreat. Careful retreat. Signal all squad mates who can hear or see your signal, your party members. Each can immediately step up to 3 times as a free action. Each step must take them further away from at least one hostile creature they are observing, and can only take them closer to a hostile creature if doing so is the only way for them to move towards safety, such as if they're surrounded. Defensive retreat is quite useful if you have people who are gravely injured, like people who should not be taking damage anyway, like casters. Other than that, it's not going to be often chosen. Form up. Next tactic. You signal your team to move into position together. Signal all squad mates affected by your commander's banner. Each can immediately stride as a reaction, though each must end their movement inside your banner's aura. Now, again, you can give one of these people a reaction to use if they've already used a reaction or if they need another reaction later on. This is extremely useful. Positioning matters so much in combat. To get casters away from fights or just squishy people, like rogues, even though they're not casters. Yeah, I see you, ruffian rogues. I'm not talking about you. The other ones. Or to get your melee combatants into better position to do things like grapple, reposition, shove, disarm, poke their eyes out, whatever. So that one will probably often be taken. Next tactic, mountaineering training. It's 1 action. All of your squad mates get a climb speed of 20 feet for that turn. Doesn't really matter. If you have the tactic prepared, though, you can always use warfare lore to climb instead of athletics. Okay, it's kind of useful. A little bit. Depends on the adventure. Naval training also depends on the adventure. Same thing as climbing, except they gain a swim speed of 20 feet for that turn. Both of these end at the end of your next turn. So you have to keep it up every turn to keep giving the ability, but you can. And so it can make certain things extremely useful. Me as a DM, I'm not going to care about these. I'm not going to have situations where everyone has to be able to swim and nobody has the ability to swim. Because I personally see that as being a dick. If a commander chose this, I'd have to change my adventure to do it. Otherwise, it's just not going to be useful. Granted, in pre-built adventures, it might happen anyway. And that's the main reason you'd have it. If it's a module, a pre-built game. Otherwise, those two are kind of crap. And that's mountaineering training and naval training. It doesn't mean stare at your belly button. It's swimming. It doesn't matter. Passage of lines. Next tactic. 1 action. Your command demands that endangered units fall back while rested units press the advantage. Signal all squad mates affected by your commander's banner. Each can swap positions with another willing ally adjacent to them as a free action that does not trigger reactions. An ally can't swap into a space it can't fit into. And if one of the allies occupies more squares than the other, the smaller ally can move into any part of the larger ally space as long as the 2 remain adjacent after the swap. Fuck yes! This is my favorite ability for mobility that you can take at first level. I think this is my favorite ability, period, at first level for commander. No, I think pincer attack. Okay, so there's one offensive one that is equal with this one for my favorites. But passage of line is awesome. You can just swap places with people. See, I know that the commander is not a healer. They're not a tank. But they can be responsible for saving lives anyway, just based on positioning. It's a very useful, secondary fighter to have in a group. Because it keeps people alive. You don't need a healer as much if you have one of these. It's a good reason to have a commander. The first offensive tactic that you can take at first level, coordinating maneuvers. 1 action. Your team works to slip enemies into a disadvantageous position. Signal 1 squad mate currently affected by your commander's banner. That ally can immediately step as a free action. If they end this movement next to an opponent, they can attempt to reposition that target as a reaction. This is great if you have an ally that has athletics at a really high level. Otherwise, it doesn't do much. So it's good if you have another melee person that has high strength and high athletics, like maybe a guardian, and then it's great. Otherwise, skip it. Double team, 2-action tactic, offensive. Your team works together to set an enemy up for a vicious attack. Signal one squad mate affected by your commander's banner who has an opponent within their reach. That ally can shove or reposition an opponent as a free action. If their maneuver is successful and the target ends their movement adjacent to you or a different squad mate, you or the second squad mate can attempt a melee strike against the target as a reaction. This one is even better than the past one for the same motion. It takes an extra action. Fine. But it's better. Overall, it's more effective in combat. So just skip coordinating maneuvers, take double team, and your team is better at repositioning and shoving. But again, if you don't have somebody in your group that doesn't have good athletics, skip both of these. Coordinating maneuvers and double team. Next tactic. End it. 2 actions, banner, incapacitation trait. Requirements. You and your allies currently outnumber enemies on the battlefield, and you or a squad mate have reduced an enemy to 0 hit points since the start of your last turn. At your proclamation that victory is already at hand, your allies march forward with an authoritative stomp, scattering your enemies in terror. Signal all squad mates affected by your commander's banner. You and each ally can step directly toward a hostile creature they are observing as a free action. Any hostile creatures within 10 feet of you or a squad mate after this movement must attempt a will save against your class DC. On a failure, they become fleeing for 1 round, and on a critical failure, they become fleeing for 1 round and frightened 2. This is an emotion, fear, and mental effect. This combines a little bit of movement for your group and a group intimidate, demoralize. This is really good. Like, this is a tactic that I would weigh other tactics against. Like, it has to be better than this to take it. Otherwise, I'm taking End It. Because in a group fight, this can help your allies and you win very quickly. Like, yes, it says incapacitation, but it doesn't say that you can only do this once per combat, or once per minute, or once every 10 minutes. If you and your allies currently outnumber enemies on the battlefield, and you or a squad mate have reduced an enemy to 0 hit points since the start of your last turn, you could do it again. So every time your team drops somebody, you can just keep doing this. This is great. This makes you dominating on the battlefield. End It is very useful. Now, the one that I keep mispronouncing. Pincer attack. 1 action. Tactic. You signal an aggressive formation designed to exploit enemies' vulnerabilities. Signal all squad mates affected by your commander's banner. Each can step as a free action. If any of your allies end this movement adjacent to an opponent, that opponent is off guard to melee attacks from you and all other squad mates who responded to pincer attack until the start of your next turn. This is just great for doing extra damage to enemies or hitting enemies. This is really good. This should be used pretty often if you can, because it keeps your enemy's AC low, which means more chance of a critical hit or more chance of a hit. It's just better for your group to end the combat faster. Pincer attack, good. Next action. I love how many of these have exclamation points. Reload. Your drill instruction kicks in and your allies rapidly reload their weapons to prepare for the next volley. Signal all squad mates affected by your commander's banner. Each can immediately interact to reload as a reaction. Can you imagine this with a bunch of gunslingers in the group? Hell yes. Special, when leading a siege weapon crew, you can use this tactic to command your squad mates to load a siege weapon instead. Okay, cool. That's not common. Whatever. Reload. It works. It works with a certain group composition, just as the next tactic also works with a certain group composition. Shields up. Red alert. 1 action. You signal your allies to ready their defenses. Signal all squad mates affected by your commander's banner. Each can immediately raise a shield as a reaction. Squad mates who are wielding a parry weapon can instead position that weapon defensively as a free action. Awesome. Saves people's actions on their turn. because they can do this instead. This is great. The Guardian has a shit ton of reactions that they have to use, but the Commander saves everyone actions. A Commander is useful for every group, and that's what I like about this. That a Commander can maybe not be the tipping point between success and failure, but they can assist any group. Doesn't matter. Hell, you can even have multiple Commanders. Next tactic, strike hard. 2 actions, banner. You command an ally to attack. Choose a squad mate who can see or hear your signal. That ally immediately attempts a strike as a reaction. Not as good as the other 2 that are reloading and shields up, because it takes 2 actions. But in like just the clinch situation, giving somebody an additional attack who's really good at attacking could be great. This one's not going to be chosen as often because it's not as flexible and it's situational. Exchanging your 2 actions for someone else to get 1 extra attack is not always going to be beneficial. It's just not. I think I have snorted half a cat.
Only half?
Yep. The other half's over here licking his belly. Now, those are all the tactics that you can start with. Now we're going to go to the expert tactics. You can start taking the expert tactics at 7th level. Piranha Assault. 1 action. You know that 1,000 small bites can fell a large foe just as surely as single well-placed hit. That's misspelled. That's annoying to me. You know that 1,000 small bites can fell a large foe just as surely as a single well-placed hit. Grr. Designate a creature within 60 feet and signal all squad mates affected by your commander's banner. Each time you or your squad mates attack that creature and deal damage to it of a type the creature resists, they ignore an amount of that creature's resistance equal to your level until the beginning of your next turn. Fuck yes. Yes, 1 action to do a fuck ton more damage. Yes. That's a good expert tactic. The other expert tactics, see, most of them are for 1st level. Stupefying Raid. I like this one because it's a little silly. 2 actions, banner. Your team dashes about in a series of maneuvers that leave the enemy befuddled. Signal up to 2 squad mates affected by your commander's banner. These allies can stride up to their speed as a reaction. That part's really cool. Each enemy they are adjacent to at any point during this movement must attempt a will save against your class DC or become stupefied 1 for 1 round, or stupefied 2 in a critical failure. It's an emotion, fear, mental effect. But it's great. It's very useful. Granted, it's only stupefied, so it only really fucks over casters. But it does also give extra movement, and it's funny. That's the best thing I can say about it. It's not great. Master Tactics. Master Tactics can be chosen at 15th level, so you have a ways to wait. Demoralizing Charge. 2 actions, banner. Your team's coordinated assault strikes fear into your enemy's hearts. Signal up to 2 squad mates affected by your commander's banner. They can immediately stride toward an enemy they are observing as a free action. If they end this movement adjacent to an enemy, they can attempt to strike that enemy as a reaction. Both of them can. That's cool. For each of these strikes that are successful, the target enemy must succeed at a will save against your class DC or become frightened 1. Frightened 2 on a critical failure. If both strikes target the same enemy, that enemy takes a -1 circumstance penalty to their will save to resist this effect. The penalty increases to -2 if either strike is a critical hit. That means that if both hits, both strikes are critical hits, then the enemy has to make the save twice, and they get -2 on each. For each of the strikes that are successful, the target enemy must succeed at a will save against your class DC or become frightened. They have to save twice if they get hit twice. That's really great. At 15th level, there's a lot of shit that's immune to being frightened. Not always going to be useful. I guess this could be one that you switch out at the very beginning of a combat if you see something that can be affected by frightened. I mean, switch into your rotation. I can see that. It's powerful, but not always useful, so I wouldn't take it. But that's me. I like being prepared for shit, which is the whole thing of being a commander. Tactics. Yeah. It's useful. I mean, it's powerful, but not always useful, so I would just skip it. Sadly. This next one is pretty awesome. Ready, aim, fire! 2 actions. You signal a volley of ranged attacks from your allies. Signal all squad mates affected by your commander's banner. They can interact to swap to a ranged weapon as a free action. Interact to reload as a free action. And then attempt a ranged strike against an enemy that both you and they are observing as a reaction. In effect, you're giving them a way to use a reaction and 2 extra actions. So it's sort of like giving them 3 actions. Pull out a ranged weapon, interact to reload, fire. Hell yes! This is all of your allies. So it's a good reason to have a whole team of just archers, or at least people that can use a ranged attack. Special. If one of your squad mates knows or has prepared a cantrip with a range of 30 feet or more, they can cast it as a reaction targeting an enemy you both are observing instead of taking the other actions normally granted by this tactic. This is great. This is so great. I really like Ready, Aim, Fire. In the right composition, it is fucking powerful. It's not broken, but it's fucking powerful. And now, legendary tactics. You have to be 19th level. They better be good. Executioner's Volley. 2 actions. You command your squad mates to act as a lethal firing squad. You and each squad mate affected by your commander's banner can attempt a ranged strike as a reaction against a single target you designate. Combine the damage from all attacks for the purpose of resistances and weaknesses. If the designated target is a living creature, these attacks are death effects and gain the death trait. If the designated target dies as a result of this tactic, all other enemies within the affected area of your commander's banner must succeed at a will save against your class DC or be frightened too. Yes, that's good. But it's only nominally better than Ready, Aim, Fire. And when you reach 19th level, you get 1 extra tactic. So you might want it to be this other one instead. Valkyrie's Charge. 3 actions. Frequency once per day. You and your allies defy death and defeat to make a glorious final charge. You restore 80 hit points to yourself and each squad mate affected by your commander's banner. This effect has the healing trait. If an affected ally was unconscious due to their hit points being reduced to 0, they can immediately stand and pick up any dropped weapons. So that's saving 2 actions for them right there. Plus, they're not dead. Then each affected ally can stride up to twice their speed directly toward an enemy they are observing. If they end this movement with an enemy within their reach, they can attempt to strike that enemy as a reaction. You and your squad mates can use Valkyrie's Charge while burrowing, climbing, flying, or swimming instead of striding if you have the corresponding movement time. Just picture this. You spend 3 actions, all of your friends that were nearly defeated get up and charge forward at maybe a third of their health at this level? Maybe a little bit more? If nothing else, this is a mass heal ability. For a melee class. This is really good and useful. The Executioner's Volley is powerful, but it's only once every 10 minutes, and Ready, Aim, Fire is as often as you fucking want, and it's only Master, not Legendary. And Valkyrie's Charge is, heal everybody, go kick the shit out of things. I would take Valkyrie's Charge, obviously. Commander Feats. I love class Feats. They give you all the flavor and the versatility of that class. And the Commander Feats, some of them are fascinating. And some of them are shit, like the first one. Armored Regiment Training. You've trained for grueling marches in full battle kit. You treat heavy armor as being 1 bulk lighter than it actually is. So a suit of full plate would be 3 bulk for you instead of 4. And you can rest normally while wearing armor of any type. In exploration mode, you and your allies use your normal speeds without including your armor speed penalties to determine your travel speed. That's it. Sure, it technically does something. It's technically useful. But in a class built on combat tactics, it is shit. It should be torn out of the book and burned. Yep, okay. So the real first commander feat, combat assessment. 1 action. You make a telegraphed attack to learn about your foe. Make a melee strike. On a hit, you can immediately attempt a check to recall knowledge about the target. On a critical hit, you gain a +2 circumstance bonus to the check to recall knowledge. The target is temporarily immune to combat assessment for 1 day, and remember that you can use your warfare lore to make these recall knowledge checks. So you're going to succeed. This is useful. Let's see if it's as useful as the other first level feats. Combat medic. Requirements. You can prepare at least 2 tactics. Okay. You're trained in battlefield triage and wound treatment. You are trained in medicine and can use your intelligence modifier in place of your wisdom modifier for medicine checks. That by itself is freaking cool. You don't have to have wisdom for this class. This is the only thing that you might use wisdom for. I mean, I guess, except for like religion checks or nature checks. Yeah. You also gain the battle medicine feat. It's combat medic. It makes you a combat medic. Like, this is really good. This is like the poor man's medic archetype. This is at first level. You can be really good at treating your friends in combat. However, the commander doesn't always have extra actions to burn. Because like all their shit takes actions. Sometimes reactions, but mostly actions. So yes, this is useful. Not every time. Not every combat. So if you have a healer in the group, just skip it. Yes, theoretically, it could come through in a clinch, but other shit that you have is going to be more protective or more useful, keep people out of danger longer, or end the fight faster. Up to you. Depends on your composition. I usually wouldn't take it because I think there are other things that are more useful in general. Commander's Steed. Level 1 feat. You gain the service of a young animal companion as a mount. Yep, it's the Cavalier. Yep, that is what this class is. Plus stuff. You can affix your banner to your mount's saddle or barding, determining the effects of your commander's banner and other abilities that use your banner from your mount's space, even if you are not currently riding your mount. That's cool because it saves you hands. Typically, the steed is an animal companion with the mount ability, such as a horse. Cool. It's a good feat. Not every adventure is going to be able to use it. Like, okay, I have been in very few adventures and run fewer that allow you to just have mounts in the adventure. Like, the whole concept of D&D, of a fantasy TTRPG, is you are in a place outside of the norm to distance yourself mentally and put you into a game state. Therefore, you're usually in an area that's not common. You're underground. You're in a tightly knit dark forest. You're in a castle. You're in a cave. You're in a different plane. Like, it's not guaranteed that you can use a mount at all. And if you can't, that feat's fucked. Talk to your GM. Next level 1 feat. Deceptive Tactics. Requirements. You can prepare at least 2 tactics. Your training has taught you that the art of war is the art of deception. You can use your warfare lore modifier in place of your deception modifier for deception checks to create a diversion or feint. And can use your proficiency rank in warfare lore instead of your proficiency rank in deception to meet the prerequisites of feats that modify the created diversion or feint actions such as lengthy diversion. You gain the lengthy diversion feat. This is useful for like hiding in combat, sneaking around, stabbing somebody when they weren't prepared. I don't know, dragging an ally off the battlefield because they're wounded. Sneaking around the battlefield to get to the main guy to target them, to kill them. I don't know. It like gets you a little bit of bonus in combat. Yes, it's useful. But is that really the main focus of a commander? It could be yours if you want, and you just do other stuff on the side. Like if you make a commander and you also take, I don't know, rogue or something else that needs people to be off guard, this could be very good. It's it's useful, I guess. Next level 1 feat, Plant Banner. 1 action. This is the first level commander feat I would always take. You plant your banner to inspire your allies to hold the line. Plant your banner in a corner of your square. All allies within a 30-foot burst immediately gain a number of temporary hit points equal to half your intelligence modifier. Granted, that's probably only 2. Fine. These temporary hit points last for 1 round. Each time an ally starts their turn within the burst, these hit points are renewed for another round. You're basically a healer. While your banner is planted, you can signal your tactics abilities only with auditory signals instead of your choice of auditory or visual, because you can't wave the banner because it's over there. If your banner is attached to a weapon, you cannot wield that weapon while your banner is planted. While your banner is planted, any effects that normally happen in an emanation around your banner instead happen in a burst that is 10 feet larger. So a 30-foot emanation becomes a 40-foot burst. You can use this action again while adjacent to your banner to retrieve it. This next part doesn't really matter. An enemy adjacent to the square you planted your banner in can remove your banner as an interact action, ending this effect and preventing you and your allies from gaining any of your banner's other benefits until you have successfully retrieved it. How are they going to know that that's helping your allies? It could just be like you're raising the spirit. It doesn't have the magic trait. There's nothing visible about the temporary hit points. It's just you plant a flag in the ground. Why is an enemy going to spend an action pulling it out of the ground instead of attacking or moving? I don't see why they would. But this last part is the best. If you are at least 5th level, the temporary hit points granted by this ability are instead equal to your intelligence modifier. And if you're at least 15th level, they are equal to your level plus your intelligence modifier. This is always useful. And there's no limit on how many times you can do it. So your enemy pulls it out, drops it so they can attack and have a shield. You pick it back up, plant it again. Fuck yes. Yes. This is a good feat. This is the feat that sadly I think most people should take. 2nd level feats, Adaptive Stratagem. Trigger is you roll initiative. It's a free action. Your constant training and strong bond with your allies allow you to change your tactics on the fly. Replace one of your prepared tactics with another tactic in your folio. It just allows for more flexibility, more versatility in combat. It makes you a better tactician. But it's sad because there are several other level 2 feats that are good. So I don't know. Try to know exactly what your composition is going to be and what kind of adventure you're going to be on to see if you have to take that one. Otherwise, if you don't, just take something else, because it's only good if you don't know what you're going to be facing and how. Next level 2 feat, Defensive Swap. It's a reaction. Trigger, you or an adjacent willing ally are the target of an attack roll. You and your allies work together selflessly to protect each other from harm. You and the required ally immediately swap positions with each other, and whichever of you was not the target of the triggering attack becomes the target instead. Why isn't this a Guardian thing? Okay, yeah, it's good. If you're a commander, take it. Why wouldn't you take this? This is definitely good. It saves people from being crit or hit at all. Of course you should take this, if you can. I don't know why they would keep this in there instead of like making it a Guardian thing, or a more like maybe switching 2 other allies instead of you and another ally. That would be more of a commander thing. Whatever. Okay. Next level 2 feat. Guiding Shot. 1 action. Requirements. You are wielding a ranged weapon. Your ranged attack helps guide your allies into striking your enemy's weak point. Attempt a strike with the required weapon. If the strike hits, the next creature other than you to attack the same target before the start of your next turn gains a +1 circumstance bonus to their roll, or a +2 circumstance bonus if your strike was a critical hit. Guiding Shot is great. There are a couple of feats that work like this depending on the kind of attack. If you have a ranged group, of course you would do this, because it just makes your ranged attacks more useful overall. And because you're a commander, you're going to be focusing on intelligence and probably either constitution or dexterity to survive. You're not going to have a high strength. And so ranged weapon works well with the high dex. If you want to somehow have high strength, dex, con, and intelligence, you're not gonna. You just can't. So pick your battles when you start making your character. There's a lot of forethought that's required going into this building of a commander. Next level 2 feat, set up strike. 1 action. Your attack makes it difficult for your enemy to defend themselves against your allies' attacks. Attempt a melee strike against an enemy. If the strike is successful, the target is off guard against the next attack that one of your allies attempts against it before the start of your next turn. Off guard. Great. Their AC is lower. They're also off guard for things that need off guard, like sneak attack. It's good. It's good stuff. It's a good feat. Has to be melee, but it's still good. I mean, your attack has to be melee. The ally's attack doesn't have to be melee. That's cool. Tactical expansion. So I guess it actually could help casters too. Yeah. Okay. Guiding shot is good if you are a ranged attacker. Setup strike is good if you are a melee attacker. Otherwise, the benefit is almost the same. It helps your allies roughly the same amount. Okay. Tactical expansion, level 2 feat. Your folio is filled with tactics and techniques you've devised based on study and experience. Add 2 additional tactics you qualify for to your folio. The second level feats are going to be taken at like 4th level and 6th level and like at 10th level still. The second level feats are really useful and good. Special. You can take this feat multiple times, adding 2 new tactics to your folio each time. There's no upper limit. Second level has all the useful feats. And we're not done. Rapid assessment. Free action. Level 2 feat. Trigger. You roll initiative. You quickly evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of your enemies. Attempt a check to recall knowledge against one creature you are observing. Fuck yeah. You know weaknesses or strengths right off the bat. Or whether or not you should just settle it with talking. This is great. I mean, this is often going to be useful, but it will also depend on the DM. Some DMs don't really have groups that you can reason with. And if you know the weaknesses versus having another feat that like lets you do more damage, might not matter. Depends on the person. Know your DM. 4th level commander feats. Level 4 feat. Cheerleader. Okay, it's banner twirl. Same thing. 1 action, banner. You spin your banner in an elaborate pattern that your allies know is just for show, but that your enemies find inscrutable. You're a cheerleader. You and any ally adjacent to you has concealment from range attacks until the start of your next turn. It makes sense. And you're a cheerleader. I have to make a build that is a commander cheerleader. Got to. Next 4th level feat. Besides cheerleader. Observational analysis. Prerequisites. Combat assessment. It's the thing that you have to do at the beginning of combat. You can roll recall knowledge to know about one of your enemies. That's the prerequisite. Observational analysis. You are able to rapidly discern relevant details about your opponents in the heat of combat. When you use combat assessment against a target that you or an ally has targeted with a strike or spell since the start of your last turn, you get a +2 circumstance bonus to the recall knowledge check. +4 if the strike from combat assessment is a critical hit. This just isn't worth a feat at this level. Yeah, it's useful. So like normally combat assessment is you hit an enemy and you get to roll your warfare lore. But you could do it anyway by taking an action. Is this worth a feat at 4th level when you can be a cheerleader? There's other stuff too. Let me read the next one. Next level 4 feat. Shielded recovery. Prerequisites. Combat medic. You know that feat. It's the feat that makes you a combat medic. You can bandage wounds even while holding your shield. You can use the same hand you are using to wield a shield, to treat wounds or use battle medicine. and you are considered to have a hand free for other uses of medicine, as long as the only thing you are holding or wielding in that hand is a shield. When you use battle medicine on an ally while wielding a shield, they get a +1 circumstance bonus to AC and reflex saves that lasts until the start of your next turn, or until they are no longer adjacent to you, whichever comes first. That's great! If you took Combat Medic, why wouldn't you take this? It just allows for more flexibility with your weapon and shield, and gives your ally that you healed a bonus. Cool! Next level 4 feat, Unsteadying Strike. 1 action. Your attack makes your opponent more susceptible to follow-up maneuvers from your allies. Make a melee strike against an enemy within your reach. If the strike is successful, the enemy takes a -2 circumstance penalty to their Fortitude DC to resist being grappled, repositioned, or shoved, and a -2 circumstance penalty to the Reflex DC to resist being disarmed. The penalties last until the start of your next turn. Awesome if you have other people that are good at athletics. This is a trend. There's a few things that if you have other people that are good at athletics, you can set them up, which is great. Your group really has to be with you on the perspective of tactics. Like, they have to be willing to do the things that you want them to do and not start a fight because you're telling them what to do. And that's something that one of my players, Robert, brought up. That the commander works really well with a group as long as your group can handle taking orders. Now, most nerds are sort of rebellious by nature. We don't like being told what to do. We don't like fitting in with the crowd. And so it takes some willingness to cooperate and let go of your own goals if it helps the group. That's a point of growth for most of us. It was for me. But if you have that in your group, Unsteadying Strike and feats like it are really useful and can end the fight for you. Next, last, level 4 feat, I really like, but it's not always useful. I would still probably take it. Wave the Flag, 1 action. It has the traits Banner, Commander, Emotion, Flourish, Mental, and Visual. You wave your banner, inspiring allies to throw off the shackles of fear. Each ally currently benefiting from your commander's banner reduces their frightened condition by 1, and can immediately attempt a new saving throw against any one mental effect currently affecting them. This can be amazing. Especially if your DM's a dick like me. Because I do this. I mind control people. I fuck with their heads. Regardless of the result, any ally that attempts the save is temporarily immune to wave the flag for 10 minutes. So that part sucks. But it's potentially party saving. Because, like, if 2 people are under a confusion effect, you need to be able to do this to win. And that's why some things are just better to be able to switch out. If you see that, like, suddenly you're facing a vampire and they have mind control shit, I might need wave the flag, even though I didn't prepare it today. Look, that thing's a fucking vampire. Wave the flag. 6th level. Battle-tested warhorse. I don't know why I read testosterone. Battle-tested warhorse. Prerequisites. Commander steed, because you have to have a horse for it to be battle-tested. Your mount is a tried and tested ally of unshakable reliability. The mount you gained with Commander Steed is now a mature animal companion. That's cool. It upgrades it. It makes it more hardy and gives it some more options in combat. In addition, your mount never attacks you even if it is magically compelled to do so. That never comes up. Sure, maybe it has for somebody at some point. It has never come up for me in any game. I don't like pets being mind controlled. Why? Just why? Why would an enemy waste the action on, you know what? I'm not going to try to mind control that dude. I'm going to try to mind control the horse and get the horse to bite him. That'll take that dude out of combat. Yeah. No, come on. Next level 6 feat, efficient preparation. You develop techniques for drilling your allies on multiple tactics in a succinct and efficient manner. Increase the number of tactics you can have prepared by 1. Amazing feat. I'm sad that it's level 6, but the tactics are everything the commander is about. So being able to switch them out during the day, being able to have more in your book, and having more prepared, great. It's necessary. Next level 6 feat. Reactive Strike. It's Reactive Strike. Fine, I'll read it. Trigger. A creature within your reach uses a manipulate action or a move action, makes a ranged attack, or leaves a square during a move action it's using. You lash out at a foe that leaves an opening. Make a melee strike against the triggering creature. If your attack is a critical hit and the trigger was a manipulate action, you disrupt that action. The strike doesn't count toward your multiple attack penalty, and your multiple attack penalty doesn't apply to the strike. It's copy-pasted. It's a reactive strike. Level 6 feat. Shield Warden. Prerequisites, shield block. This is a really good feat. When you have a shield raised, you can use your shield block reaction when an attack is made against an ally adjacent to you. If you do, the shield prevents that ally from taking damage instead of preventing you from taking damage, following the normal rules for shield block. My first bitch about this was, why isn't this a Guardian feat? And I still think that sorta, like, it fits the Guardian feel. But the Guardian has other abilities that protect someone. I think that this would be useful as well, but the Guardian has so many fucking reactions already. Do they really need another one? And the Commander doesn't really have a lot of reactions. Most of their shit's proactive or helping other people use their reactions or giving other people reactions on the Commander's turn. Even though it really feels wrong here, it works well with the mechanics of the Commander. So Shield Warden is great. I like the Commander. The Commander is super useful. Mostly at saving people's lives. Like getting temporary hit points every round and blocking things and moving them around the battlefield, getting them out of harm's way. Making them run away. Making the enemies run away. 8th level feats. First feat, Defiant Banner. One action has the banner trait and manipulate and visual. You vigorously wave your banner to remind yourself and your allies that you can and must endure. Maybe not like that. We'll win, guys. Ow. You and all allies affected by your commander's banner when you use this action gain resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage equal to your intelligence modifier until the start of your next turn. At level 8. Fuck yes. One action, yes. At 14th level, the value of this resistance equals to your increases to your intelligence modifier plus half your level. At 14th level, that's a ways away. But this is a really good feat at 8th level. Next level 8 feat, Officer's Education. Listen to this one carefully. A broad knowledge base is crucial for competent commanders. You become trained in 2 skills you're not already trained in, and become an expert in 1 skill you're currently trained in, and learn 1 common knowledge you don't already know, and gain any 1 general feat of 3rd level or lower you meet the prerequisites for. You can take the feat twice total. I love this. I did not know that this could exist in Pathfinder. This shit should be in other classes too. You take a class feat to gain more skills, languages, increase the skill proficiency of a skill, and gain a general feat. Fuck yeah. I mean, for me, the general feat would probably always be an Ancestry Paragon feat, but it could be something like Fleet, or Die Hard, or Toughness, whatever. Officer's Education is just a really good feat. I think I'd be hard-pressed not to take that. Let's see what else is here. What other goodies do we have? So the Defiant Banner is good. It's 8th level. It gives you resistances to the main 3 physical sources of damage. Or the Officer's Education that gives you skills. And now we'll move on to the last 2 that are 8th level and see if they compare. Rallying Banner, 1 action. It has the traits of Banner Commander, Emotion Healing, Mental Visual. Once per 10 minutes. Your banner waves high, reminding your allies that the fight can still be won. Roll 4d6. You restore that many hit points to each ally affected by your commander's banner. 1 action. This healing increases by an additional 1d6 at 10th level and every 2 levels thereafter. This effect draws upon your allies' morale and adrenaline and has no effect when used outside of combat. So it's just healing. That's all it does. Once per combat. 4d6 to everybody. But that's great. It's still really good. If there were no healer in a battle, the commander could be a replacement for it. I mean, you might even be able to like add elixirs if you wanted to, or like I did in the commander build I have, link in the description, add kineticist for Timber Sentinel. Because it's stationary and you give people ability to move, more mobility, you can help them move closer to the thing that protects them. Yes, this is a commander is a strategist and sort of healer. It's interesting. Last level 8 feet, unrivaled analysis, prerequisites rapid assessment. Your experience allows you to derive even more information about your opponents from a mere glance. When you use rapid assessment, you can attempt up to 4 checks to recall knowledge about creatures you are observing. I don't know when the fuck that's going to be necessary. Are there 4 different kinds of creatures I'm observing in the middle of a fight? I don't think so. Okay, so I guess I would take either the rallying banner that heals people, or officer's education, or one of those many really good second level feats. Let's go to 10th level. 10th level feats. Battle hardened destrier. Prerequisites. Battle tested warhorse. Accompanying you across countless battlefields has allowed your mount to unleash its full potential. The mount you gained with Commander Steed is now a nimble or savage animal companion. Great, it's better in combat. Or faster, or whatever. Your horse is more sneaky. Whatever. Your animal companion has greater independence. During an encounter, even if you don't use the command an animal action, your animal companion can still use one action that round on your turn to stride or strike. Fuck yes. This is great if you're going the Cavalier route. In fact, the Cavalier archetype seems to have almost no purpose now. It can do this independent action like a familiar at any point during your turn as long as you aren't currently taking an action. If it does, that's all the actions it gets that round. You can't command it later like an independent familiar. We know how this works. But that's very nice. I'm glad that they have scale up options inside the class for flavor of a different type of archetype, like the Cavalier. This could be your Cavalier class. You don't need to take the archetype anymore. Next level 10 feet, drilled reflexes, which has the prerequisite of drilled reactions, which is the thing where you can choose one ally to get a reaction when you target them with a thing that makes them use a reaction. You leave a lasting impression on your squad mates that makes them particularly adept at following your commands. When you use your drilled reactions ability, you can give an extra reaction to up to 2 allies instead of only 1. This is rather necessary at 10th level. You're probably going to have to take this, sadly. But maybe not. There's 2 more level 10 feats. Let's check this one. Standard Bearer's Sacrifice. It's a reaction. It has the traits of Banner Commander, Manipulate, Visual. Requirements: you are holding or wielding your banner, like you always will. Seeing an enemy take aim at your ally, you bravely flourish your banner to redirect their attention to you, your air traffic control person, and a cheerleader. The triggering opponent must attempt a will save against your class DC with the following results. Success: the opponent completes his attack against your ally. So nothing. Failure: the opponent targets you with the triggering attack instead. Great! On a failure, you have succeeded at your attempt in helping your ally live. Critical failure: as failure, but you get a +2 circumstance bonus to your AC against the triggering attack. This could just negate a ranged attack. Cool. That's good. This is very good. Last one for 10th level. Targeting strike. Prerequisites: guiding shot. Your guiding shot creates a deadly opening for your allies. Whenever you hit with a ranged strike using guiding shot, the next attack made by an ally against that target is made with a +2 circumstance bonus, even if the strike was not a critical hit. And the strike deals an amount of additional precision damage equal to your intelligence modifier. Okay, yeah, good, but not always necessary. Yes, fine. If you are a commander that has ranged attacks and that's what you do in combat, you ranged attacks, then I guess 10th level you could take that. Plus, you're not going to be in melee combat because you're doing ranged attacks. So the only other one that would be useful for you is drilled reflexes, which still might be necessary. So even if you meet all the prerequisites and the situational necessities of targeting strike, you still might just take drilled reflexes, because it gives your allies extra reactions to use your abilities. So it makes you more effective in general, not just at helping somebody else shoot a dude. Level 12 feats. Fortunate Blow. 1 action. Flourish. So you can only do it once per turn. You set an enemy up for a devastating follow-through from your allies. Attempt to strike against an opponent. If the strike hits, so ranged or melee, the next creature other than you to attack the same target before the start of your next turn rolls twice on their attack roll and takes the higher result. This is a fortune effect. This is otherwise called Grant Advantage. Yeah, it's a good one. Let's see what it compares to. Next level 12 feat. There's only 3 total level 12 feats. Perfected Evaluations. Prerequisites. Unrivaled Analysis. You instantly assess the strengths and weaknesses of the enemy forces. When you use Rapid Assessment, you can attempt to... Relax. Next level 12 feat. Perfected Evaluations. Prerequisites. Unrivaled Analysis. You instantly assess the strengths and weaknesses of the enemy forces. When you use Rapid Assessment, you can attempt up to 6 Recall Knowledge checks against enemies you are observing. It's just not always going to be necessary. I don't really care much about that. Let's see what the last one is. Last level 12 feat. Reactive Interference. It's a reaction. Trigger. An adjacent enemy begins to use a reaction. Interesting. Your own tactical expertise allows you to quickly identify and prevent enemy responses. If the triggering creature's level is equal to or lower than yours, you disrupt the triggering reaction. If the triggering creature's level is higher than yours, make an attack roll against its AC. On a success, you disrupt the reaction. This is called Protect Your Casters. I think I like this one the most. Out of granting advantage, doing a bunch of knowledge checks, recall knowledge checks, or stopping a reactive strike? Yeah. Reactive interference wins. That's the most useful, best, strongest level 12 feat. 14th level feats. First one, Contact with the Enemy. Prerequisites, Adaptive Stratagem. You know that even the best laid plans rarely survive contact with the enemy, and you have prepared your allies to adapt with a wide array of contingencies. When you use Adaptive Stratagem, you can replace any number of your prepared tactics with others in your folio instead of just the one that's triggered at the beginning of combat. Any of them! Can anything be better than that at 14th level? For the commander? I don't think so. Let's see. Desperate Resuscitation. 3 actions. It has the Healing and Manipulate traits. Prerequisites. Master in Medicine, Combat Medic. Okay. Requirements. You are holding a healer's toolkit or are wearing one and have a hand free. The target's body is mostly intact. Target's body, so they're dead. You can use your training in combat medicine to revive the recently deceased. Attempt a DC 40 medicine check, which is not hard at level 14. To revive a dead creature that has been dead for no more than 3 rounds. If you succeed, the target returns to life with the effects of raised dead. Except it still has the wounded condition it had before dying, increased by 1, or wounded 1 if it wasn't wounded before dying. Yeah, man. This is the medic archetype. This is great. Yeah, it doesn't have Doctor's Visitation and a couple of other tricks, but wow. Whether you succeed or fail, the target is temporarily immune to Desperate Resuscitation for 1 day. This is amazing. This is really good. The commander is the healer protector dude. Moves people around a chessboard. Last level 14 feat. Quickening Banner. 1 action. It has the banner and visual traits. Frequency once per 10 minutes. Your banner flutters desperately, urging your allies to strike now. Each ally affected by your commander's banner is quickened for 1 round. They can use this extra action to strike or stride. Yeah, that's sort of clutch. But Desperate Resuscitation... I have to vote for Desperate Resuscitation. Because you can use it on everyone in your group. The one person you used it on is temporarily immune to it for 1 day. But there's no other limit on it. You can use it on everyone if everyone in your group dies. As long as you can get to them within 3 rounds. I'd have to go with Desperate Resuscitation. It lets your friends keep playing instead of might end the combat a little early. I have to go with Desperate Resuscitation. Yep. Even though the other one, the first one, contact with the enemy, allows you to change out all of your prepared tactics. Oh, that's hard. That's a hard one. Oh, that's tough. Oh, I don't know. Oh, man, that is actually a hard choice, which is good game design. Because you have to choose what's most important to you and build your character either trying to prepare for both needs or focusing heartily on just one of those. Are you going to be really flexible, or are you going to be able to bring people back from the dead? They both could matter a lot. Choose wisely. Yeah, quickening banner is cool, but it's just not as useful. 16th level has 2 feats. Confusing commands. 2 actions. Auditory, linguistic, mental. Prerequisites. Deceptive tactics. Ooh, is this about lying? You shout out bewildering but authoritative commands while imitating the voices, language, and speech patterns of your opponents. Just picturing you yelling like an orc. Each enemy within the area affected by your commander's banner must succeed at a will save against your class DC or become confused for 1 round. 2 rounds on a critical failure. Fuck yes. Targets who succeed at their saving throw are temporarily immune to confusing commands for 1 day, but that's only if they succeed. If they fail, you can keep this shit up every round. Yeah, it takes 2 actions, but if you're making like 3 people confused every turn, it is worth your 2 actions. Okay, that's an amazing feat. What could the next one be to beat it? Undaunted Discipline. It's a reaction. Trigger your turn ends. Requirements. You are affected by a mental effect. You can find a loophole in a mental effect to temporarily overcome it. Until the end of your next turn, you ignore a single mental effect. You can suppress a particular effect using Undaunted Discipline only once. Only once, period. Wow. You can't use Undaunted Discipline to suppress an effect you chose to have affect you. Special, you can use this reaction even if the mental effect is preventing you from using reactions. That makes sense. I'm glad they put that little proviso in there. Dude, oh, that matters. Oh, that's a feat. That's not just a tactic you can trade out. You take confusing commands or Undaunted Discipline. Undaunted Discipline seems more necessary, but so rare that it comes up. Confusing commands seems like way more fun, and that's why I would take it. That's just me. If I fail a will save, I'm going to hope I have a hero point or everybody's fucked. I would take confusing commands. It's just more fun. Picture imitating a hill giant. That was an order, because that's what hill giants sound like. 18th level has 2 feats. Demand Surrender. 2 actions. Auditory, Incapacitation, Mental. Incapacitation. I don't like that trait. Requirements. You and your allies currently outnumber enemies on the battlefield, and you or an ally has either restrained an opponent or reduced an opponent to 0 hit points since the start of your last turn. Similar to an earlier one, okay. Confident in your victory, you command your opponent's surrender. Choose one opponent you are observing. You command that opponent to surrender in a strong voice, and they must attempt a will save against your class DC with the following results. Critical success, they're unaffected. Success, the creature cannot take any hostile actions that include you as a target for 1 round. So not that impressive. Failure, as success, and the target is fleeing for 1 round. That's cool. You should surrender. Fuck this, I'm leaving. Critical failure. The creature drops any weapons or items they are holding, lies prone on the ground, and does not take any hostile actions against you or your allies for 1 minute or until you or one of your allies attacks them. That's the... Assume the position, you're getting arrested. That's great. Oh, that's fun. Oh, I like that a lot. What's the other 18th level feat? Practiced reflexes. Prerequisites. Drilled reflexes. You snap out a quick series of signals or commands that urge your allies to act with alacrity. When you use your drilled reactions ability, you can give an extra reaction to up to 4 allies. Okay, that's important. Fuck, I'd have to take that one. It just makes you more flexible in combat. It makes you more useful. Because you can give everybody in your group an extra reaction, whether they need it or not. I guess if nobody else in your group by level 18 has any useful reactions to take on their own, then you don't need that. And then you would take the I'm arresting you feat, demand surrender, which could be really, really funny, but also just super useful. Yeah. But if you have, I'd say, more than 2 other people, that's how it works, because the previous feat drilled reflexes. If you have more than 2 other people that need their reflexes, need their reactions for their own abilities, then you kind of need to take this to let them use your reactions. Otherwise, your abilities don't get used. 20th level, 2 feats. Glorious Banner. Your banner is an awesome sight to behold. It's all pink and sparkly. Because remember, you're a cheerleader. Your commander's banner now affects a 60-foot emanation or an 80-foot burst if you are using plant banner. The status bonus to will saves and DCs against fear effects granted to your allies increases to +2. And you and affected allies gain a +1 status bonus to AC, fortitude saves, and reflex saves. Enemies within the area affected by your commander's banner take a -2 status penalty to will saves as long as they can see your banner. That is super boring, but very effective. If you're going for just numbers, it's probably the best choice. Let's see what the other one is. Level 20 feet, Pennant of Victory, 1 action. Banner and visual traits, frequency once per 10 minutes. You wave your banner in writ victory, signaling to your allies that the fight is won. You and all allies affected by your commander's banner gain a +4 status bonus to attack and damage rolls, a +10-foot status bonus to all your speeds, and 40 temporary hit points. These benefits last until the start of your next turn. It's that last part that really kills it for me. Yeah, it's really neat for that one turn. But Glorious Banner is always in effect. It always hurts your enemies and helps your allies. Even though the other one is like, raw, we're charging the field, get +2 to hit and damage and move faster and temporary hit points, it's still just until the start of your next turn. And it's once every 10 minutes. I have to go with Glorious Banner over Pennant of Victory. It's just generally more useful. And passive. Passive things are nice because you don't have to remember to activate the damn things. Because that can be hard in this game. Especially in Foundry. Well, I guess not especially in Foundry. Also in Foundry. Yeah, you have to like make little notes to yourself at 20th level. Like you're writing a computer program for yourself. Okay, when I start, hit run here. And then next turn, hit this and that. And then the turn after that, I'm set up. And then I can start attacking. And then everything's dead. Yeah, it happens. All right, well, I guess that is the commander. What do you guys think of it? I think it's useful. Obviously. I think that it would be fun to play as the commander. But I think that the commander would really not get much glory. Because the commander's focus is I help other people do better. I think it would take a very specific kind of person to be willing to play the commander, Robert. And it has to be somebody who sees the needs of the group as more important than their own needs. You don't need to eat the microphone, dude. And who doesn't mind just not being the focus of attention, but helping everyone kick more ass and making them feel good. This is sort of like the co-DM's class. Like you're just supporting people. In fact, I think I would probably make an NPC commander. It would be maybe a little bit boring for me to make because I like interesting characters. But if it's somebody that's going to be traveling with the group, instead of a healer person, a commander. Because they're just useful and they keep people alive. And they allow people more freedom. They let other people feel really cool about themselves and their character build. That being said, I think the commander is actually built better than the Guardian. I really only say that because of 1 or 2 abilities that the Guardian has that are very close to broken or are broken. The commander, I think, is actually better built than the Guardian. Please try the commander. See how it makes you feel. See how it makes your teammates feel. And remember to ask your DM questions and communicate with your co-players before your character is made. Because you really need to know how to work well with the group. And if you have poor communication in this group, or it's the first time you've joined this group, don't play Commander. You will be disappointed because your abilities help others, and if they're not willing to communicate with you, they're not willing to get help. But please let me know what you think of playing the Commander. It seems like fun. I want to see it. I want to see video clips. I demand to see video clips of your home games. And Loot wants to too. Big fat furry belly. Thank you for joining me today and for looking at the Guardian as well. The Guardian video is going to be linked at the end of this right over there. And I appreciate your eyeballs and time. And if you're a patron, I am grateful for you, especially for you. And if you want to be a patron or investigate what they get, check out Patreon's in the description. Remember to download the character build of the Commander that I made in the description as well. I'm going to try to make 2, so I may not have the second one ready right away, but I got to make a cheerleader. They have banners and pennants, and they wave them around. They can get acrobatics. I have to make a cheerleader. It's going to be fun. Yeah, okay. So if you want to make sure to hit to see the next video that I make, hit the subscribe button. Tell your friends, cause I don't know, useful videos are here, and I need the attention. Not me personally. I don't actually care. I just like talking. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Bye-bye.